Today's speaker is Dr. Yvonne Pitts. She joined the Wabash College History Department in 2005 after earning her PhD from the University of Iowa. Dr. Pitts enjoys working with Wabash students because of their willingness to ask and answer difficult questions. Please welcome her today as she presents her chapel talk.
Thank you, Robert, and I would like to thank the Sphinx Club for inviting me to give a chapel talk on this fine November morning. I would like to thank all of you for attending. As this is my first chapel talk, I asked my colleagues for their reflections on what makes a good chapel talk. What goes through your mind as you stand up here and look out at all of you? And although their perspectives differed on quality and content, they anonymously agreed that the Wabash audience appreciated levity and brevity. I can promise brevity, which late in the fall semester is perhaps the more crucial category. The title of my talk is Our Lives as Citizens, Belonging to Wabash and the World. I have been thinking about citizenship, particularly with the ongoing debates over enemy combatant status, immigration, and who participates in our polity. Recently, I have come to think of citizenship on several levels, locally, nationally, and globally. Many of us participate in the rituals of citizenship here or in our natal homelands. We vote, share or contribute to government programs, and some of us may have served in the military. The question I pose to you, what does it mean to be a citizen today? What are the rights and the obligations of citizenship in our multinational world on an everyday basis as we live our lives? I propose to you that while we hold very precious the rights and protections inherent in citizenship, we should spend time attending to the obligations of citizenship. What are the responsibilities to each other and to our communities to nurture participatory democracy? The ideas I will discuss today emanate from an established body of scholarship on the history of citizenship by scholars including Linda Kerber and Michael Les Benedict. And, of course, I owe many thanks to my Wabash colleagues and to the students who have discussed and debated the parameters of citizenship with me, especially Jesse James and my wonderful History 240 students. Thanks, guys. I hope these conversations continue. As my colleagues in classics will tell you, the concept of citizenship dates to ancient Athens. Later, Aristotle believed that the citizen intentionally chose to be ruled and ruling with a view to life in accordance with virtue. During the 18th century, the advocates of the American Revolution and the authors of the Constitution hearkened back to these Roman views of citizenship. Hence, we have George Washington, the American Cincinnatus, and the first citizen farmer. Indeed, the word citizen is simultaneously liberating and equalizing. Citizen guarantees the bearer a collection of rights. It enmeshes the holder in the very fabric of the Constitution and of the nation. The U.S. Constitution states that the citizens of each state shall be entitled to all privileges and immunities of citizens in the several states. The word equalizes by its implications that those who share its title share the rights attached. It defines and bounds a community. Citizens in the U.S. Republic possess those rights, and many of you could probably list them verbatim. The right to free exercise of religion, to freedom of speech, to freedom of press, to peaceably assemble, and to petition the government. And hey, that's just in the first of 10 amendments. Rights, however, have not always been distributed equally under the rubric citizen. In 1858, Chief Justice Robert Taney and Scott v. Sanford agreed that the people of the United States and citizen were synonymous terms, so it's a seemingly stable definition. Taney explained that citizens were individuals in the body politic who, according to our Republican institutions, form the sovereignty and who hold power and conduct government through the representatives. A seemingly stable definition, right? He then delineated the contradiction and the promise contained in the vessel of citizenship. Addressing the status of all African Americans, Taney held that as a subordinate and inferior class of beings, subjugated by the dominant race, and whether emancipated or not, yet remained subject to their authority, had no rights or privileges, but as those held by the power might choose to grant them. Now, I bring Taney's words to your attention to demonstrate how a word seemingly unified in meaning carried contradictory, inconsistent meanings. These meanings divided on the basis of race rights-bearing individuals from other similarly situated individuals. Indeed, many historians conclude that Taney's decision excluding African Americans from citizenship was the moment that sectional tensions became the irrepressible conflict leading to the violence and the carnage of the Civil War. 10 years later, in 1868, the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution declared, "All persons born or naturalized in the United States are citizens of the United States and citizens of the state wherein they reside." In 1873, a bookish Republican lawyer named Matthew Hale Carpenter asked the Supreme Court in Bradwell v. Illinois if a female citizen, duly qualified in respect of age, character, and learning, can claim the privilege of earning a livelihood as a practicing attorney at the Illinois bar. Justice Bradley thought not. He replied, "The natural and proper timidity and delicacy which belongs to the female sex evidently unfits it for many of the occupations of civil life. In the nature of things, it is not every citizen of every age, sex, and condition that is qualified for every calling and position." Through the vicissitudes of historical chance, Justice Bradley never had the opportunity to meet Sandra Day O'Connor, or if you are a fan of the Fifth Circuit, Chief Judge Edith Jones. My point today is not to rehash historical wrongs and judicial foibles. Rather, I wish to emphasize that the term citizen is evolving and has never had a trans-historical meaning. The boundaries of citizenship change. For a moment, I would like to move beyond a narrow legalistic focus on these meanings. All over the globe, individuals are renegotiating the meanings of citizenship in complex national and multinational projects. For example, Pope Benedict just yesterday backed Turkey's bid to enter the European Union. Many people believe that Turkey's entry into the EU will lessen regional conflict and promote human rights. Now, individuals in the EU are not traditionally conceived citizens defined through national identity and owing allegiance to a national government. But for those of you that have traveled to EU countries recently on immersion trips or semesters abroad, did you notice how seamlessly EU members cross national boundaries with those red passports they waved? Currency exchanges between EU countries no longer require a dual degree in math and economics. Ah, the past. Does anybody know how many lira were in a franc? The African Union is another multinational group of states committed to human rights and economic development. Now, whether you are a proponent or opponent of these globalizing trends, and let me say that the African Union specifically recognizes the negative aspects of globalization. The point is that this multinational citizenry enables the pursuit of human rights and commerce. At the same time, it asks individuals and states to give up everyday markers of national identity, such as currency and passports. Upholding human rights and promoting progress does not happen merely because politicians or elites declare a new multinational body. In order for these global communities to prosper, individuals must commit to building local communities founded on a participatory citizenry. The current debates over combatant status and immigration status should encourage us to reflect, rather than deflect, questions about what is it contained in that vessel of citizenship, rather than who is outside of it. What does it mean for us to be citizens? I propose to you that with the rights, be they ensconced in a constitution, charter, or part of a multinational community, accompany shared obligations. For example, to fulfill the U.S. Constitution's Sixth Amendment promise of a trial by a jury of one's peers, there must be peers, citizens willing to sit on juries. We have had a painful historical conversation about what a jury of our peers looks like. To guarantee and protect human rights, people must be willing to speak out and shoulder the responsibilities and obligations of citizenship. Voting, too, is both a right and an obligation to foster strong communities. As important as voting and jury service are, they occur infrequently. We vote a few times a year and serve less frequently on juries. I ask you, though, to think beyond these obligations of citizenship enumerated in the Constitution. I challenge you to participate in the everyday obligations of citizenship by building communities through service, which creates a strong democracy built on shared rights and obligations. And I call your attention to right here. Some of our brightest students are and have been engaged in these endeavors. Wabash traditions, as I understand them, hold sacred independence and liberty, characteristics which will serve you well as rights-bearing citizens. Look to your colleagues and our alums who have embraced the obligations of citizenship. I'm thinking of alumni, and there's many of them, who have devoted part of their lives to creating opportunities for other people. Jason McClure, now in Africa, serving in the Peace Corps, comes to mind. He's planting millet and working with local villagers to uplift an entire community. I think of alum Frank Hageman, recently awarded the Man of the Year Award by the Indianapolis Association of Wabash Men. Frank runs Partners in Housing, in which he works to build affordable housing. He extends his vision back to his alma mater by mentoring and training Wabash men as interns. Our football team comes to mind. Go Wabash. Last spring, they traveled to Panama, where they literally engaged in building communities. They cleared trees, they wielded pickaxes and shovels. Last summer, Professor James Makubia and media specialist Gina Rogers traveled to Africa to work with an organization called SIGHT, or Shifting Ideas Through Education for African Women. And don't forget the good work right here that Larry Fry and our own Professor Rick Warner do, and our fraternities have done with Muffy, the Montgomery United Fund for You, which assists local families in need. Finally, our freshmen every year participate in a day of service, many doing jobs which would make excellent episodes on the Discovery Channel's Dirty Jobs. And there are many, many, many more examples, but again, I have promised you brevity. So as you can see, Wabash community members have a long tradition participating in global and local communities. I remind you once again, the boundaries of citizenship are elastic. Through participation as citizens, we make and remake the state and ourselves in the process. My challenge to you is to participate in building a strong citizenry which honors and protects our rights and our obligations. So as we approach the bleary-eyed, sleepless chaos of finals, many of you perhaps cursing my name, as you lean over those keyboards, those blue books, pause for a moment. What small deed can you do to fulfill the obligations of citizenship? Thank you very much.